Hey guys, it's Missy Vinson. I am doing my case study speech for Dr. Carl Becker's basic public speaking class for spring 2016. The case study that I chose to do was regarding the gentleman that was 54 years old and that was discharging from a long-term care facility. I chose this case study because it's familiar to me. I work in long-term care facility and I have for a very long time, so I understand the situation that he was in and the problem and what could have been a better outcome. A little bit of history about Mr. Jones. He's 54 years old. He was a long-haul truck driver for 10 years. Didn't really have any family that lived around him. His son lived away, so he communicated via phone once a month. He had an estranged ex-wife. So when he was involved in this accident that broke his back and left him paralyzed in his bilateral lower extremities, he had no choice but to go into a long-term care facility. He had no one to take care of him. So he is admitted into this long-term care facility. He's there for 8 months, then decides that that's not the place for him. He's a young man. He needs to be back out in the community. So he starts inquiring about discharge plans. It ended up taking 2 years for his complete discharge plan to occur. There was a lot of issues that came up. One being, upon his discharge, he still needed extensive assist with his ADL functions, which is transferring, bathing. He didn't really have accessible home. That, he had this new handicap now and everything had to be accessible. Couldn't have stairs. Safety interventions had to be in place. He still needed help, so therefore home health had to be involved. They had this kind of like a relocation specialist come in while he was still at the nursing home and sat down, and they discussed what needed to happen prior to his discharge. There had to be an assessment completed, which some of the information was some of his personal information, what his medical condition was, and what his professional care needs were, previous home care arrangements, if he had any, his housing neighborhood preference, finances, family support, whether he was going to need transportation when he left, public-private supports, all that needed, and any assistive devices were needed. So the next discussion was home health. Which agency do you want to use? That's picked. Then they have to discuss the level of care. The referral had to be complete. The case manager of the home health had to agree and say that he qualified for all the criteria. The housing situation. As I said, he required, handicap accessible, in a good community, a safe community, so this took some time. At 8 months is when he decided to go home. At the 2-year mark is when he was finally discharged. The problems that I see with this discharge, as having the experiences I do as working in long-term care, discharge planning should be initiated upon admission. So on day 1, whether it be case management, social services, the conversation should take place regarding discharge plans. Are you going to be short-term? Are you going to be long-term? Do you just require therapy? What are the goals that you're setting? What do you have to do before you go home? I feel like with Mr. Jones, if this was done at the beginning, he wouldn't have been there 2 years. The issues that he had, he would have known about right up front. The nursing facility would have known right up front. All the requirements that he's going to have, the special housing, the home health, all of that. This whole situation where he had to stay there, all that extra time could have been prevented if this had happened at the beginning on the day that he was admitted. Hopefully, you guys never have to get in that situation, but if you do, hopefully that you'll think about the speech and the recommendations and the steps that you have to do to make sure that everything's in place.